Chapter 2. The Law of Self-Image. An individual's self-concept is the core of his personality. It affects every aspect of human behavior, the ability to learn, the capacity to grow and change. A strong, positive self-image is the best possible preparation for success in life. Dr. Joyce Brothers, psychologist. There is one particular client, Sandy, who stands out for me from my days as a career coach. Even though the details of her story were, of course, unique to her, the fears she had about her professional life were representative of the basic fears and struggles of many of my clients, especially those faced with reinventing themselves mid-career due to a poor economy, or those returning to the workforce after many years away. Sandy was a smart, attractive, college-educated woman who was in her early 50s when we started working together. She had spent most of the previous 20 years living in a small Midwestern town, raising 4 children, while her husband held down the same job he'd had since before the kids were born. When her husband got laid off, Sandy found herself needing to return to the workplace for the first time in nearly 2 decades. She timidly entered my office and waited for permission before taking a seat. As I reached for her resume, the look on her face was a mixture of fear and desperation, with just the slightest glimmer of hope. I could almost hear her thoughts. I am a lost cause, but maybe you can fix me. After only a few moments of conversation, she blurted out, "I have a college degree, but it's been years since my last job outside the home, and now I'm over 50. The statement was somewhere between a confession and an apology. She explained that before her children were born, she'd worked as a services coordinator for a major nonprofit. But nowadays she felt as if she had no skills to offer in a workplace environment. As our conversation continued, her body language and tone of voice, even more than her words, revealed how she felt about herself. She sat compactly in the chair, as if she were afraid to take up too much space, and she had trouble maintaining eye contact with me. Her voice was hushed and sounded resigned. But what I heard Sandy screaming loud and clear was, "I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough. Everyone else is more qualified than me." Realizing how her poor self-image must be affecting her job search, I said, "Let's forget about what you haven't done and talk about what you have done." She shifted in her seat and sat up a little straighter, then began recounting some of the ways she'd been involved in her children's schools. She talked about her work with the PTA, and how she had served as the parent liaison for several of her children's classes. Her pride in these tasks was clear, and she actually beamed when she explained how she had never missed a game or a dance recital. She grew animated when she described how expertly she coordinated the family schedules, ensuring that everyone was always on time. At the end of each anecdote, though, she would shrug off my enthusiasm, minimizing her contributions with such responses as, "It was not really a big deal," or, "Well, that's just what moms do." The going was at times arduous, because Sandy's lack of belief in her professional worth was deeply entrenched, but she was committed to the process. Slowly but surely, we outlined how the skills she developed in the past few decades could be applied to the workplace, and she began to see, and even more important, believe in her value. As a professor at a leading business school, I strive to instill in my students a few key tenets. Chief among them is that perception is reality. I know that this maxim may sound cliché, but it is also unequivocally true. If the ways you perceive other people become your reality about them, then how you perceive yourself is your reality about you. What you believe about your strengths, weaknesses, knowledge, and skills is what you transmit to the outside world. A few years ago, I had a part-time MBA student named Dave, who was a tax controller in his day job. Whenever we did class presentations, Dave was unfailingly enthusiastic about and supportive of his fellow students, pointing out the positive aspects of a presentation, even when it had been less than stellar. But when it came to his own performance, Dave had nothing but harsh self-criticism. The rest of his coursework was strong, but he stumbled when it came to giving his presentation to the group. He simply believed that he couldn't do it well. The good news is that because our perceptions of ourselves create our realities, We have the power to change these perceptions in wholly positive ways. For Dave, it took viewing several videos of himself making a presentation to realize that he didn't look as nervous as he felt. I have since received an exuberant email from Dave, telling me that at the last minute he had to fill in for a senior colleague and deliver a presentation to an important client. He was extremely nervous going into the meeting, but he worked hard to prepare and was able to deliver the presentation in a confident manner that impressed the client as well as his boss. I kept remembering how nervous I was in your class while presenting, but that I looked and sounded all right on camera. And that's what got me through it, he wrote to me, adding, and I even remember to smile. Dave had changed his perception of his own reality, and his positive self-image was the conduit for strong connection and communication in a crucial situation.